Assemble! Stay dandy, baby. Things are about to get plus ultra, my friends, because the long, excruciating, and torturous wait is finally over. It is time for the 4th season of My Hero Academia. And how is the series going to repay all of its loyal fans who have been waiting patiently for the next big season? By opening it up with a recap episode. Greetings, my fellow heroes, and welcome to my review of the first episode of the 4th season of My Hero Academia. While I've made some pretty big changes to my YouTube channel where I've decided to not do weekly reviews of anime series and trying to make more high-quality reviews, there was one show that I simply just could not ignore, and that was My Hero Academia. This show is just catching fire everywhere. It's one of the most popular anime at the moment, and I just so happen to be a big fan of the franchise. However, I have a unique perspective on the entire series in that I only watch the anime version. I don't read the manga. I'm just not really into reading a manga all that much. I like to kick back, relax, and watch some animation, see some amazing voice work, and of course, see all of the amazing color explode off of the screen. And that's been one of my favorite things about My Hero Academia, where at its surface, it seems like the typical shonen battle manga fare. However, it's continuing to sort of reinvent the wheel in a pretty interesting way, and how it's managing to appeal to such a large and wide audience. It's really easy to see why people are so obsessed with this series, and I, for one, could not wait for this season, especially how everything ended in the last one, with Deku and all of his classmates getting their frickin' asses handed to them by a naked dude. And when you get your ass handed to you by a guy whose butt cheeks are constantly showing, well, you're not exactly going to live that down. Not to mention the introduction of a brand new villain who goes by the name of Overhaul, this weird, creepy mobster who's wearing a death plague mask. I can't wait to learn a little bit more about Mirio Togata, his other fellow classmates, All Might's former partner, not to mention all these brand new villains, and how it's all going to tie into Deku's story of becoming the greatest hero of all time. But this episode decides to pump the brakes just a little bit by giving us your typical recap episode of reintroducing all of the characters, reminding us what their quirks and superpowers are, but at least it's dressed up with an interesting story of a brand new character who goes by the name of Taneo Takuda, who is this weird reporter who I honestly have to say is just creepy. The guy comes across as a really disturbing individual. He seems like the type of guy that would keep a girl in a pit in the bottom of his basement. It puts the lotion on its skin, and it poses for the picture. That's right, this Tokuda guy is really the only new character that they introduce in this episode, and according to some of my friends who actually do read the manga, apparently this is a filler episode. This is a character who has never been introduced before, and again just serves as sort of like a vehicle to reintroduce all of these characters. And you know what? This is a series that is done by season. This isn't like One Piece or Boruto where they go on for like 1,000+ episodes, and if you're not following, well, too bad. It's kind of necessary to do these type of things. One, because there are going to be some new viewers who decide to jump on the My Hero bandwagon, and this is a great way to sort of introduce all of these characters and give us a rundown of all the events which have actually been happening in the series. However, the episode does serve the purpose of reminding the viewers that while All Might has indeed lost his powers and he's a weird, decrepit old dude, he is now going to entrust all of his ideals to the younger generation, Deku and his friends. In the last season, it almost seemed like Deku was sort of being singled out in that he's the one who's going to have to take on the mantle of All Might, and while he is definitely going to be taking his powers, it's really him and his entire class that are going to be shaping the future of this entire world. Deku is incredibly powerful, but he's not going to be able to do these things by himself, and that's where the character of Tokuda actually came in. At first, they almost make him seem like he's kind of antagonistic, as if he's actually up to something, maybe even he could be a villain himself, but he just really wants to reaffirm that everything's going to be okay. that the future is going to be safe and it's going to be bright thanks to all of these young students. Basically, the entire framework of the episode is that he's this journalist who's going to cover all of the students of UA school, in particular class 1A, and he's going to do like sort of an expose on every single student, but really he's trying to find what is going to be All Might's successor, and due to his investigative skills and the fact that he has a superpower which allows him to have lenses come out from all over his body, super creepy, he is able to figure out that it is going to be Deku. But but he also reassures him that he's very glad that someone like him exists. It gives him a lot of hope for the future. This entire episode is using that vehicle to introduce all of the characters yet again, and that's pretty much it. I really wish I had a lot more to say about this episode. I could actually talk a lot more about the brand new intro and ending that they actually have for the series, where they start to introduce some more of the new villains, such as Overhaul and his gang, and this other brand new mysterious character who's this little girl who has a horn on her head. She seems like she's going to be very important in this arc, and I'm not quite sure what sort of role that she's going to play. She might be related to Overhaul. She might be like someone who's been kidnapped by him and the organization of villains. I'm not really sure, but it's pretty obvious that Deku and his friends are going to have to save this girl. It's just the circumstances behind it, at least to me, are kind of a mystery, and I really just can't wait to see how that's all going to play out. Again, though, while this was a recap episode, it did play to the strengths of My Hero Academia, which is its incredibly awesome cast. I mean, every single character is just so likable, and you just can't help but want to learn a little bit more about every character and see them grow and become more heroic as the actual series does go on. So I cannot completely fault this episode for effectively being a recap, and you know what? That seems like the par of the course for the series at this point. The last season opened up with one, and it made sense to do it again here, especially after taking such a long, extended break. The good news is it looks like things are going to pick up significantly in the next episode. There is a post-credit scene, which really doesn't show much of anything aside from just reminding the viewer that, yeah, there's a brand new villain here. He looks really freaking creepy, and you should be excited for it. So, what's the rundown on this episode of My Hero Academia? I will say that I am hyped. I'm very excited to finally see this season return. It's arguably one of the most anticipated anime of the fall season. For me, it's probably my most anticipated anime this year, period, because, man, My Hero Academia has just completely sucked me in with how amazing it is. I don't want to say that it's sort of filling the void that was made by, like, say, Naruto or Dragon Ball, but that's basically what it's doing for me. And it's doing a lot of new things, and also, like I said, I think it's got this amazing ability to appeal to so many different types of cultures. Like, My Hero Academia in the US is really popular, like almost as popular as it is in Japan, and a lot of that is of course owed to the creator of the series, who constantly loves to pay homages to the American superhero. And that's what's always been so unique about this show. Unlike, say, One Punch Man, which yes is superhero-centric, is still just absolutely mired in Japanese culture and how ridiculous it can actually be. However, it's My Hero Academia that sort of gives me that feeling of reading a comic book or watching like an old DC animated series. I don't know, there's just something very unique about that, and I just really do love it. Like I said though, this entire episode is really just a recap. You can take it or leave it, but honestly, I highly recommend at least giving it a watch once. It's definitely worth seeing. If anything, it's going to get you hyped up for the rest of the season. Typically, an episode like this, I would give a 3 or a 2 out of 5, but honestly, I like the way that this entire episode was handled with the character of Takuda. It made it kind of interesting. They could have just straight up just showed us some clips from the last season with a narrator talking over it, but they managed to give us a pretty interesting story about this guy who's just really trying to be hopeful for the future. There's even the nice little detail of the fact that apparently his family was saved by All Might in the past when he was a little kid, so that's a nice little connection that he actually ends up having with Deku by the end of the episode, which is surprisingly heartwarming. That being said, the guy is still a total creep. He can't help it though, that's just the way he's actually designed. And overall, his power of being able to have lenses come out from all over his body and print out pictures is strange, but honestly, it's pretty standard for the show. So I'm actually going to end up giving this episode a 4 out of 5, and you guys should definitely check it out if you are following the series. So there it is. I'd love to get your thoughts about this episode. Let's have a discussion about it in the comments section below. If you really want to help this video out, you could give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Maybe share it with your friends, and if you want to go the extra mile, make sure to check out my Patreon and PayPal account. There'll be links for all that cool stuff in the description box below. So thank you again for watching. I'll see you all next time, and as always, plus ultra, baby.